Lastly, we'll talk about T cells, B cells. So I know that this has been introduced to you and discussed by my co-members, but just to clear things out, um, T cells is they are responsible for cell-mediated immunity, meaning not based on antibodies. So this is triggering cells to know how to conquer and defeat some kind of infection. So cytotoxic cells, helper T cells, suppressor T cells. So cytotoxic T cells is one of the kinds of T cells. So these are just going to places where there are viruses and bacteria in peripheral tissues, like just in the layers of your skin. In parts of your liver, they will migrate into those areas and just destroy them. They will just eat them and destroy them. So that's why they are called cytotoxic, because they have certain packages, um, little vesicle. You can call them lysosomes that can contain. That contain enzymes that are designed to help like eat up and destroy some kind of virus or bacteria. Now, helper T cells, the reason why they are called helper T cells is because without their signal or signaling, other T cells and B cells would not be successful. And helper T cell is the main kind of cell that HIV or AIDS is going to invade and destroy. Suppressor T cells. So suppressor T cells kind of the opposite of what T cells are doing. So helper T cells, the opposite of this one, because helper T cells, they are helping out T cells and B cells in terms of stimulating them to do their job. But suppressor T cells, they tell them that, hey, back off. So something like that. And that they will be responsible for stimulating them to kind of hold back and not have as many cell divisions. And if an infection is over, it's if it's been defeated. So suppressor T cells are going to turn off that reaction. So to be activated, T cells must be exposed to an antigen abnormal plasma membrane. So to be activated, T cells must be exposed to an antigen. And an antigen is usually some kind of protein or proteinaceous kind of surface molecule. So if you look at the plasma membrane, there are these little proteins sticking out the surface of them. Those are antigens. Bacteria are going to have antigens on them. Viruses gonna have antigens on them. Even the surface of a parasitic worm is gonna have certain proteins that are unique to that species. The reason why I says abnormal plasma membrane proteins is it's abnormal to you. So have your own you have your own particular proteins on the surface of your cells, based on your genetics. Even your brother, even your parents are gonna have slightly different proteins. So the introduction of abnormal membrane proteins your body, so that antigens, and your body will respond to those antigens on T cells and their abilities. So major histocompatibility complex protein, or MHC, are what allow your body to identify the friendly cells versus abnormal cells. So major so friendly cells when we say friendly cells, meaning your own abnormal, your own normal body cells. When we say abnormal cells, it's basically means that virus that's not really a cell, but viruses, bacterial cells, parasitic cells. This is gonna have to a certain protein composition, certain kinds of antigens that are not normal. And MHC proteins present foreign antigens. So you're gonna see a demonstration of that in a little bit, but that MHC proteins, they will present in an abnormal antigen. So let's say a cell get invaded by a virus, and that virus is actively making four new viruses using its machinery of that host cell to make a bunch of new viruses. That means they are making a bunch of abnormal proteins to your body. Well, the MHC will actually take antigens and present them outside of the cell, and it's kind of like a flag, a little white flag, like, would help us. So that means some T cells are gonna notice that we expose that antigen, and then kind of signal others ones like, hey, we have problem here. There's abnormal proteins in this cell. So that means there's some kind of invasion from foreign bodies. So now, here's the here's this antigen presentation that I was just trying to kind of act out for you. So here is the cell that's being invaded. Here's the cell that's being invaded. And so this is the antigen presenting cell. This one. It's antigen presenting cell. So MHC, or major histocompatibility complex protein. So you have different classes of MHC, but this MHC is gonna take antigens and be like, look, here it is. When they say immature T cells, it's kind of like saying currently inactive. So it's a T cell that looking for these abnormal antigen presentations, and rather than a white flag, it's better to say it's kind of like a red flag. But we have um, we have a problem here. So this is the immature T cells. So this is the immature T cells. Once it comes into contact with that antigen, then it's going immature T cells, we're saying. So this immature T cells. So we have a problem here. Again, so this is the immature T cells. Once it comes into contact with that antigen, then it's going to become activated. And this is gonna tell chemically other cells, and it's gonna cause cell divisions that are gonna tell other T cells that, hey, this is what you got to do. So a helper T cell, a helper T cell, it's gonna secrete things like interferons. So interferons are those particular chemicals, peptide based chemicals that are going to signal cells like, hey, we have some kind of viral invasion, so be ready for this, something like that. And here we have also my mature cytotoxic T cell. So these are the ones that are going around and actually like actively eating up all of these other cells that are gonna have the similar antigen presentation. So even if the virus has just one cell, I mean invaded one cell, then that virus is bust gonna bust out here and invade thousands of other cells. So if wasn't for this cytotoxic T cells, it end up the once abnormal antigens, so you would have a problem, and then virus could destroy tissues. So that's it. This is the antigen presentation of T cells. The So now let's proceed to B cells. So B cells, this is another kind of lymphocytes. These are responsible for antibody mediated immunity. So our body has millions of these populations. Each kind of B cells has its own antibody molecules and activated when they receive OK from a helper T cell. So remember, in the previous slides about sort of that signaling like, hey, we have problem here. So helper T cell is going to be activated when there is a need for antibodies, and if there's no need, then they're not gonna have the activation, obviously. Now, memory B cells, similar to memory T cells, so but these retain a memory on how to make antibodies. So, when stimulated, will divide or differentiate and secrete massive amounts of antibodies.